All right, welcome back to the podcast. These episodes are going to be a little bit different. We were at the Tom Ferry Summit and had a chance to catch up with a couple of folks that I know you're going to enjoy hearing from. This episode is all about the Holly and Chris team. They're a team right outside of LA, and they're going to talk about several things that I think in this market are critically important. First, how they are being the experts in their market. 2, how video has impacted their business. And 3, what it looks like to load the cannon right now in our business. So let's hop in. All right, Chris and Holly, thanks for joining the podcast. I'm excited to have this conversation with you.
Thank you for having us, David.
Yeah, we've known each other for many years now, and you've been KCM members. You get the message out there. Truly an expert team. And so tell folks that maybe don't know you right now, where you're from, how long you've been in the business, because I want to get into your story and your team and how you be the expert in this market and talk about that. But let's kind of start with who you are for people that don't know you.
Excellent.
Awesome. I started in 2000 at 19 years old. I was a student at Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo and studying animal science. And I met a girlfriend who, a really great friend of mine, her mom was an escrow officer, and she said, "You have a personality for real estate." So I took my license and started at 19.
Did you start on a team or just start out as an independent?
I just had a mentor. I started at Coldwell Banker and really had an excellent mentor, actually, and became the godmother of one of my kids. And just went from there. It was a great time to be in real estate before 2008, of course. And really just took off in a nice small town called Hollister in the South Bay.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Then ended up in Los Angeles, had to start my career over again at 40. And that's a whole nother story we won't get into, but just started fresh with all of the knowledge, but not knowing anybody. And really just took a deep dive into social media, knowing that it was basically a free platform to be able to get people to know who I was. And then really dove into, becoming the knowledge broker and understanding what's happening with the market and really getting that word out there. With the help of you guys.
So it's the only thing you've ever done. So that's an interesting perspective. I'm going to come back to you in a second because I want to talk about living through 2008 because you did. But Chris, talk about your background and how you got in the business.
Well, I loved real estate since the 80s when everyone was on infomercials about, mindset and, you can, other people's money and all this sort of thing. And I've always loved it. I ended up getting into the finance industry in the late 90s and dealt with a lot of trading, stocks, bonds, a lot of mortgage products. I really like the real estate side of that. So I followed the economy very closely for the bond department and managed large teams within the finance industry. And I didn't like the suit and tie, the 9 to 5. The hustle was completely different. It was for someone else. And so I got into real estate. My ex-wife was in real estate, and so I learned a lot while I was marketing her people and things like that. And I'm really happy to be working with Holly now.
And what year was that when you got into the business?
Oh, I've been licensed for maybe 14 years or something like that.
All right.
But, I've, like I said, I've always been in it one way or another.
So you've both been in it for, 15 years, 14 years plus. That's kind of around, I was mentioning 2008, because we're in a market right now that's adjusted, right? So talk about this market, where you're at right now in Calabasas, outside of LA. How has this market for you and for your team been different? And what are the things that maybe are even similar to adjustments in 2008?
Yeah, I mean, I think I keep saying, I get asked probably at least 3 or 4 times a day from random people, whether I'm working out or just, at the grocery store or run into people that I know. I always get the question, so what's the market like?
Right.
And so it's so vital. I keep telling the team, it's so vital to know exactly what's going on because you will be asked. And it's kind of very specific. I don't think we've ever seen a market like this. It's not 2008. It's not COVID. It's very, I would say in some ways, normal, except for, as far as interest rates, normal. But the inventory has created a different twist on it. And of course, as we see things change, I think that's going to change. But right now, we are definitely in like more of a load the cannon type phase.
Okay.
We are busy. We are still doing things. We have a lot of listings, and we're selling them. It just feels like the buyers are just a little bit more reserved right now.
Yeah, that
Truly.
makes sense. For both of you, and we've talked, we had breakfast this morning about the team. You mentioned something there. Let's break it down and loading the cannon right now.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear both your perspective, even for people listening to say, hey, if you're in the business here at the end of summer right now, we've been through the last year of the fastest rise in interest rates in recorded history.
Yes.
Right? The business has shifted and has changed. It's a more normal market, and normal feels weird and hard. But what does it mean to load the cannon right now? To get really, what I hear is get ready for, the next market.
When the pandemic hit, it was probably one of the hardest times in history to do anything because we didn't know if we were going to sell another house. We had just had an amazing year. We bought a house together. We upped our leases. We're like, okay, let's go after the next year. And boom, the world stopped. And Tom Ferry, we took the word. It said, load the cannon. And he just said, go to work because the process equals results. And so we just started stuffing that cannon. And we had the best years after that, after we put the time in, after we learned about what was going on every 5 minutes. Like it was a ridiculous time. And we realized how hard a work you really had to put in at times like that, but then how easy it can be in a regular day,
Right.
So
So now we're shifting because again, you're feeling that reserve of people and even sellers. I hate to say that sellers aren't selling because of the interest rates, but for some, it is true.
Sure.
We are in a very specific market where we do see like a lot of cash buyers and things like that. It's different. So that doesn't affect obviously those buyers, but I think loading the cannon as far as like sellers, there are sellers that want to sell. They're preparing to sell. I think that something that is not talked about in the industry is that sellers is very typically a preparation of several months. It's not just, hey, I want to list my house today. It happens.
Right.
I would say about 50% of the time, but the other 50% are really like starting to think about it. And, you take that first listing appointment, but it could be a couple months, whatever the timing is for them. So as far as that goes, like we're very listing heavy. So that cannon is just loading it and preparing them, helping them understand what the next steps are. And buyers too, we have a lot of buyers that are like, hey, we're just kind of waiting this out.
Right.
But I think something that you guys talked about, I believe that was last Monday. I was really pumped after that
deep dive.
Monday morning deep dive. Yeah. And just really got the team excited about it. We were thrilled about hearing about, the prospect of what's going to be happening in the next year as far as, interest rates and what's going to be happening. So again, it is a load the cannon type of situation where we're prepping and also giving knowledge out to people. We need to let them know this is what's next.
It's so interesting because I think you mentioned a point there of there are people that are going, hey, we do have a good interest rate and we're going to kind of hold what we have. And that's a reality in our business. I don't think it shuts the business down, but I'll give you a quick, and there's a graphic that we use at KCM that 70.7% of FHFA loans right now are below 5%.
Yeah.
So they're in the 4s, they're in the 3s, some of them in the 2s.
Yeah.
And for home ownership and for housing in this country, good for them, right? We're excited about that. But it's also created this situation where people are maybe going, hey, we're good with what we got. So here's my question to you. You have a team.
Yes.
What are you telling your team right now? Because really, anybody that's listening, I think the hardest thing to do is to kind of walk the line between what we can control and what we can't control right now. So what are you telling your team? Maybe talk just a little bit about the team that you have, but what are you telling your team to focus on relative to what they can control?
Yes.
Given there's so many things in our business right now that we can't control. Can't control interest rates. We can't control things that are outside of our kind of dominion.
Yeah, so we started a team this last year. We have 8 team members, and it is an interesting time to be starting a team because it is a more challenging market. in a lot of ways. This isn't COVID where everybody was buying houses. They didn't care if there was only one standing wall.
Right.
You know, and negotiations and all that stuff was just so easy to handle. And it is a difficult market as far as transactions. Buyers are a lot more picky. They want things done. So there's that part of it where we're having to, you know, it's a good time to actually be starting in real estate and really understanding the grit of how an escrow process works from start to finish, from the time you start working with the buyer or the seller to the end. And then the other part of that is that's what we're telling them. We actually shared a clip from the deep dive last Monday. It's really, really trying to get them going on video, really trying to get them going on sharing with all of their sphere, like, this is what's happening, be prepared, let's get to work, because what's going to happen next is obviously, like you guys said, the buyers are going to start coming out of the woodwork again.
Right.
Sellers, it's happening. I can already feel it. And every time you guys give this news, it always happens. So it's good to be prepared. So we're really trying to get them to educate themselves and then educate their sphere and their farm, because they're all farming. And so it's really important to get the word out so that sellers know what's coming next. Or, like you guys said last week, really get on top of it and say, hey, maybe this is a better time for you to be selling or a better time for you to be buying, so you're not in competition.
Yeah. I'll tell you something about that. And I can't remember if we used it on that deep dive, but I had given Tom a slide that Mark Davidson in 1000 Watt did a survey, and the numbers were shocking. It's almost 2/3 of sellers were more likely to do something after they had a conversation with somebody about the market.
Yeah.
And it makes sense,
Yeah.
right? Because you hear things about what's happening, you hear things about what's going on. True, not true. We talk a lot about that at KCM and headlines and all they do, but to be out there and have a conversation. So, Chris, your background in finance, I'm so interested to hear your take on kind of where we sit right now. You follow that and what you kind of see happening relative to things going on.
It's been a while since I've tracked the economy, so I rely on you for that information. But you know, I have my own opinions, and I've always kind of just created my own graphs in my head of how things are going.
Right.
And you know, it was interesting when rates were low, and everyone just got used to them because it was forever.
Right.
You know, and people were born into those rates, going, "Oh, this is the way the world works."
Right.
And now that they're over 7, I mean, I've seen 7% rates over and over again over the last many decades. To me, it's not a big deal. It's just that the acceleration of it was like, when it hit 4, right? People were pulling their hair out. And I'm like, 4%, really?
Right.
You know? And so I believe that, you know, there's definitely some volatility right now with the economy, with politics, with the election coming up. There's a lot of confusion. And I think that happens every 4 years, of course, because they don't know what the next administration and what decisions they're going to make. I mean, they could just make, you know, mind-blowing decisions overnight. Yeah. So we don't know, and that's why a lot of people are holding off as well. So I think that, you know, we hope for the best outcome politically and good decisions on economy, and I think they're coming. And I think that, you know, when you say that rates could go down and, you know, below 6 over the next year or two, whatever, and that all the big organizations are saying this, I believe it. I think we're coming down, and we won't see sub 3 for decades, if ever. But I think we're going to get to rates where, you know, loading the cannon, being the fiduciary, being the trusted agent, you know, these people are going to come to us when it happens.
The best agents know what's happening nationally and also know what's going on in their local market. At Keeping Current Matters, we help real estate agents become experts. And now, we've added something that will change the way you communicate. KCM Local. With KCM Local, you'll now have access to local data, national insights, and powerful visuals, all in one place. To be the local expert, visit keepingcurrentmatters.com.
The interesting thing about the market, where we are right now, and you mentioned this, there's a lot of confusion.
Yes.
Whenever, and I look back at COVID, there's similarities to that. There was a ton of confusion during COVID that I think expert agents stepped in and said, hey, here's the path that we believe this market is going to take. And while a different market today, and let's be thankful we're not in a worldwide pandemic
Yes.
and, all of that it brought. There's an opportunity to be the expert, be the one that has the light going forward. So let's talk a little bit about that, of being the expert in your market. You're in Calabasas, right, in LA. What's your average sales price? You're dealing with people that expect that, right?
Yeah.
100%.
How do you be the expert in your market right now, given that?
Oh, well, obviously studying the market, knowing what's going on, and then just eating and taking in all the information we can and then putting it right back out, because we're up against all the noise. We're up against all the headlines.
Yeah.
And a lot of these people that we deal with are, they have money managers. They have agents, they have everything that manages them. So their money and their investments are extremely important to them. Obviously, I think everybody's are. So,
Sure.
So we just treat it like across the board. This is an investment. We really want people to understand, where is their money? How is it appreciating? All of that. And really, it's video. For us, it's video. It's all about video and social media.
Right. We were talking this morning. Explain to people what you sort of do in your system in that.
Well, we do a lot of video, and we put out different types of content. Obviously, we do the fun stuff as far as like creative stories around each of our listings, but also just more of just hey, this is what's going on in the market. This is like the updates.
Right.
Just hopping on the your iPhone and just telling people what's going on. And I think that's why I'll be working out. And, I'm running up a hill and, the guy next to me is like, hey, what's going on in the market? Because he's watching my videos and now he's asking me because he trusts what I have to say, which is insane. If I wasn't doing that, I don't think I'd be asked those questions as much as I am.
We're not strangers, and because we're not strangers, people trust in us, and that's where the truth comes out. And the best compliment we can ever get on any videos is that you seem so real.
Right, that's awesome.
And it's like, that's what I want to get across on our videos. It's just, that, hey, we're just here. We're just people like you, and we're just, we may know a little bit more about real estate. You're a better doctor than we are, so we'll trust you. You trust us.
Yeah, an average price point in Calabasas, that's a tough one, but it's probably around $2.5-3 million.
Yeah. So I mean, certainly, being the expert is important.
Yeah.
And I think at any price point, being the expert is important.
Absolutely.
But what is there a video that you think about that you're like, hey, we really got traction with this? That was like an update or market video or something like that.
Yeah, actually, there was one that finally put me in the double digits on the Instagram, but it was basically just talking about. It's very simple and kind of silly, but it was talking about. Each year everybody's saying, oh, the market's crashing.
Okay, yeah.
And then it's just going down year, but 2020, 2021, 2020. And that's the thing. Like, I love saying this. Nobody's values have gone down.
Right.
Like, that's the beauty of it. And that's us kind of having to counteract everything that we're hearing in the news.
And that video took off?
Yeah. Everybody, I swear, it got shared so many times. It's like I don't know. I don't even know how many.
I think it's the ones that
People viewed
kind of elicit the attention of both haters and lovers. I mean, you get the people who are, oh my God, you're so right. And then you get the ones
We
that
get
are
that
like,
occasionally.
Oh my God.
You do. I notice. And then you have haters. People are like, oh yeah, you're just a greedy realtor.
Yeah.
You're just trying to get people to buy. They shouldn't be buying right now. It's like, no, if I didn't feel this way, I mean, I am a homeowner. We own a home. I wouldn't tell people, I think helping people realize, even first-time buyers, this is such a good investment in yourself.
We there was a post in a blog, a KCM blog that was published this week on adjustable rate mortgages. I don't know if you saw that. People were like, why did you say this? And I think that it's a great topic on financing, how you help people navigate this market. But there are ways to get through this market relative to financing. And an adjustable rate mortgage, I certainly would go, okay, that is a different product than 2008. People in, Tom and I have done a lot of speaking this year and different things. And people are like, how is it different? The main difference is you got to qualify for it. That is the biggest difference in an adjustable rate mortgage. Huge. So if we can start there, that's a big deal. Are you seeing many sellers offer a concession for buy downs?
Yes. Yes.
How's that happening where you're at?
I think the greatest thing that happened once the rates went up is the banks starting to get creative again.
Right.
And I think that was huge.
Right.
And yes, we are probably seeing that 9 times out of 10 that sellers are paying for helping pay down points. So we're seeing it. I know that the rate is about $25,000.
Yep.
And so people are using the
That's on
entire
a
amount.
permanent buy down?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. No penalties or anything. And we're seeing sellers give that concession.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest shift that we've seen is obviously the sellers not being too much in charge. But I think there's a nice balance right now between buyers and sellers. It's not like sellers are, winning. It's balanced right now. Buyers are getting what they need.
Right.
And sellers are also getting what they need. So it's a win-win. And we're seeing people, even if they have, because we're still seeing multiples on specific homes. So even if they have to offer the 25 over and still win the house,
Is that what's happening in Calabasas now?
I mean, not too much in Calabasas. But
Okay.
We're getting multiples on multi-million dollar homes, though. I mean, $3 million homes, people are coming in and multiples, which is odd in a higher end market.
Yeah.
It's usually the $1 million to $1.5 million that just all day long. But.
Have you found that, because I think a video on a buy down, how a seller can entree that for, it's probably a great video to have out in the market. Mm-hmm. Are you seeing most sellers kind of being receptive to that? Like, so the case always I've felt like is, hey, before you do a price reduction, make this property attractive through a buy down. Make it, offer it through something like that. Is that a strategy that you're using, or do you see that in real life?
Not typically. It's usually just written on the offer. And then, we talk to the sellers and say, hey, this is a great thing to, for the buyer to take advantage of and for you to help them out.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's educating them on the net that they're getting. It really makes no difference whether they're giving a credit at some point. It's what are you netting at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think you're right. And it makes the difference is in the market, it's a more attractive outcome for the buyer. Yeah. Right? Because you can finance it. And there are a number of different ways you could do this through a permanent buy down, like you mentioned, 2-1, things like that. You have to qualify for it. I always say that because I feel like post 2008, we have to say that. And I want to say this too, because I think it's important. The loan products that were in the market then, I think about Calabasas, which was the headquarters of Countrywide Home Loans. I've been in Angelo's office in that building in Calabasas, where there were neg-ams and all the loans that we can look back on and say should have been. They're not there anymore.
Right.
It's about how do you understand what you're getting into and how do you finance it.
It wasn't the loans as much as it was the aftermarket.
Yeah,
like you said, country wasn't. It wasn't the actual product because, like you said, a short term like an ARM, it's actually great strategy for some people.
Right.
And as long as you take care of it, it's like a savings account or anything else. It's helpful or interest only. It was the fact that on the aftermarket they were just selling it to everyone possible, so they were just free money for everybody, and that was the problem.
Yeah, and I think the assumption was you could bundle those securitized assets with good loans, basically, and it would work. And we know we can go back and go, it didn't work, and that's what it was. I want to say this. You mentioned something, Holly, that in your market's a very balanced market. I think this point is a critically important point to understand, because I would say, and Chris, you could say this from your years in finance and say right or wrong, certainly, that is the Fed's objective with real estate right now, is to balance out this market because it was overheated. A couple of facts about that. One, 43% of GDP in this country is tied to residential real estate. So their realization that if real estate's out of control, inflation's out of control. That is a fact.
It's a key market.
And I think that balanced market approach is what specifically the Fed is looking at in real estate. Because if real estate doesn't stay in control, then inflation grows, and we know what that is. And so that's, I think, navigating the new normal, very normal market is what folks, is what we're in for. And, that's been different over the last couple of years. So as we kind of wrap up here, and I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, what do you say to the agent right now that's listening that says, hey, I want to build a team like Holly and Chris. I want to be the expert out in my market. I want people to come up to me at the gym and say, how's the market? How do you coach them? What would you say to them if they were sitting right here with us?
Wow.
Where do you get started?
Yeah, I would say definitely get hooked up with KCM.
Love that.
I know. I love to plug you guys, but it's true. It's true. Really, really understand what's happening.
Yeah.
Really understand, and then get that out. Get that word out. Get that word out, because if you're a knowledge broker, then people are going to listen to you, and then you're going to attract agents that want to do the same thing.
Yeah.
And that's how that plays out. I'm really trying to get the team to start doing video, and as we all know, it's very difficult for most people to do that.
Yeah.
And so that's one of my goals with the team, is to get them comfortable doing that.
How do you get them comfortable doing that?
How do you? Ooh.
I'm uncomfortable.
How do you?
So years ago, she
We're still working on it.
But years ago, she said,
case
we're getting
Yeah.
the video game. And I'm like, no. And I definitely sell us more now than I did then. I'm into it for the videos we do. But when it comes to do me in solo, it's crazy. We had a little breakout for our agents where we're like, okay, go outside and film a little shorty, right?
Yeah.
And I went out there and I'm like, hey, so the market, blah, 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 damn it. Hey, the market, damn it. So we started a team, damn it. And I went back and forth, and finally I got up there and I had a beard at the time. And I go, so Holly hates my beard. What do you think? And I said nothing. And we go to the meeting, and they were all embarrassed, and I'm embarrassed. I literally was embarrassed to show my stuff, and I'm known as a video guy, which is weird. And I go, all right, guys, here's what I did. And I told them the same story. I go, look how embarrassed I am, and I'm known to do video. My kids called it cringe in the beginning, and now they're like, oh my God, things you guys do are amazing.
That's awesome.
It's not cringe anymore, and I'm still bad.
That's good. Well, I mean, to get to have this conversation for the two of you, being the expert in the market, we're grateful for the support that you give what we do, but you really are the team that says we want to bring buyers and sellers the truth, the expertise, and it shows. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you for what you do.
Yeah,
I mean,
please. Thank you.
honestly, we couldn't do it without you.
You're our
Absolutely.
news. That's it. I just go to you for news.
We're grateful for it. Well, it's been great to have
Yes,
both of you on and
thank
just
you.
have this conversation, and thank you for that.
Yeah,
Thank you, Dave.
of course. Thanks so much.
Both of these episodes that we were able to do at the Tom Ferry Summit were a lot of fun, face-to-face with some leaders in our business. This podcast is part of our greater vision, really at Keeping Current Matters, to help families feel confident when buying and selling a home. And I hope you found value in that. If you did, please like this podcast, subscribe, and share it with somebody that you know could be impacted by it. And we'll see you back on next week.